Project Spartacus has launched, and what we know about it, it matches a lot with what was leaked before, but there were some flaws in there, especially when it comes to the price. And what it brings, I think some people will get a lot of use out of this and get a lot of value. But compared to what it could have been, and what I think a lot of people thought it was intended to do, it seems incredibly disappointing and has some major weaknesses. But we'll get into it. First, what this service does is essentially just merge PlayStation Plus and PlayStation Now, and you start off with PlayStation Plus Essential, which is $10 a month or $60 annually. And this is essentially what PlayStation Plus always was and has the same benefits, including 2 monthly downloadable games, discounts, cloud storage, and online multiplayer access. You then have PlayStation Plus Extra. Now these include all the previous tiers, obviously, and you get a catalogue of 400 games from the PS4 and PS5. And these are specifically downloadable games, not streaming games. And this is for $15 a month, or $100 annually. Then you have PlayStation Plus Premium, which is the top tier. Obviously all the premium tiers, plus 340 additional games, and these come from previous PlayStation consoles, including the PS3, original PlayStation, PS2, and PSP. And an additional benefit of this tier is this actually offers cloud streaming access, and so you can stream it from everywhere from your PS4, PS5, or even on PC itself. One thing I'm not a fan of is the requirement to pay annually, because essentially if you want to do PlayStation Plus monthly, you're paying double the price of an annual subscription, and so you're almost obliged to pay for that annual subscription, and I think that's a little bit unreasonable. I don't mind an annual discount, but when they become this severe, essentially PlayStation Plus Essential is 50% off, double the price, and even the Plus Premium, $18 a month comes out to $216 a year, so it's knocking over almost $100 off the annual price, which makes either of the first two options almost insanity to even consider when the discount is that big, and so they are heavily pressuring people to put all that money up front. And the other weakness that it has is, well, it does have 400 PS4 and PS5 games, which is indeed more than the around 100 or over 100 on the Xbox Gamepass. It has one severe weakness that the Xbox Gamepass doesn't, and that is the simple fact that it won't be putting its first-party titles onto the service at launch, so you're going to be ending up to pay full price for them. And this is a major, major bonus of the Xbox Game Pass. And quite frankly, it's the only reason I'm subscribed to Xbox Game Pass. Because if you look at it, it's £8 a month, which comes out to what, like $12 or something a month? And that price pays for itself just in the day one releases alone. Because these are games that I would have paid full price for. And so essentially it comes out to something like, as long as there's 2 of them a year that I would have bought, I can just subscribe every month and I'll still come out in profit. But there's also a lot of games where I'm like, well, you know, I wouldn't have paid full price for them at launch, but paying for a month for a subscription, probably getting all of my time usage out of it, and then not playing it afterwards and unsubscribing, is a bargain for that kind of level of game. That's why I'm such a fan of Xbox Game Pass. It's incredible value. And you just don't get that with PlayStation's offering. What they're essentially offering is old games. Woo. And indeed, those old games actually cost more than Xbox Game Pass, unless you go for the annual option, in which case they do become comparable. And indeed, at that point, there is more games offered on the PlayStation side than the Xbox side, so you could say that they offer more value. Just that I'm not actually interested in these old games for this. Some of them are decent, but most of them are just things where I'm like, I'm not too bothered about them, and without that, I probably wouldn't have paid for them anyway. It is those big, massive day one games that really make these services for me, and it's one that's only just unwilling to add into the service. But there is this interview from Jim Ryan, their CEO, which explains their thought process, and well, I'm not sure I agree with it. I can definitely see why they think of it this way. We feel we're in a good virtuous cycle with the studios, where investment delivers success, which enables more investment and delivers more success. We like that cycle, and we think that gamers like that cycle. He continues, in terms of putting our games onto this service, or any service upon their release, as you know, this is not a road we've gone down before, and it's not a road we think we're going to go down again. We feel that this would break that virtuous cycle. The level of investment that we need to make our studios would not be possible, and we think the knock-on effect of that on the quality of our games would not be something that gamers want. And I can see where he's coming from when he's thinking of the idea of a load of people pay full price, or a load of people just pay for 1 or 2 months for the game. But that's also not counting the option that I said, where it's like, well, I was never going to buy that game in the first place, but now it's a lot cheaper and I only get it for a month. Now you've got that extra revenue, so it's not quite a zero-sum game as is adding out. But he does say that essentially how things are now may not stand in the future, because like 4 years ago, who would have expected to see AAA PlayStation IP games being put on PC, but we've now done that, and so in the future we might look back on this and think that was crazy, because now we do it in an entirely different way. And for me, I think it comes down to what are their goals, because as it stands, I don't think it beats Xbox Game Pass when it comes down to just value offered. Yes, you do get game streaming, and yes, you do get more games. And so if you're after just size of the catalogue offered, then yes, this is actually great value and it's far better than Xbox Game Pass. But if you're after the new games, then that is its major weakness, and that's what I'm interested in. So I'm kind of torn on the whole idea, because there's no real reason for someone like me to be interested in what's being offered here. But I'm also sure that a load of people get a lot of value out of it. But if you actually want to put it up as a fight between Xbox, Microsoft, and PlayStation, then this doesn't take a bite out of Microsoft in the least. And I think that is what could have been the advantage for this. Yes, would you lose some money in the short term? Quite possibly. But would that have put you in competition with Xbox if you had actually put your first-party titles on the system on day one? Absolutely. That is why people are coming onto Xbox Game Pass, and it's what could get you markets in those other platforms which you just don't have any access to right now. This is a service which is very focused on the PlayStation console and not really much else. As it says here, Ryan's view isn't unique to Sony. Most AAA publishers are reluctant to put their brand new games on a subscription service. Now the counter-argument, like you've got with Xbox Game Pass, is you're potentially widening your audience to tens of millions of players, and if your game has other forms of monetization, then the potential revenue increase is significant. Despite what they've said before about wanting to move on to other platforms and gain other audiences, this move doesn't really reflect any of that. And so I'm absolutely sure that there's going to be a lot of PlayStation owners and a lot of Sony people which look at this and think this is great value, I like the annual prices, and I'm very happy with what's being offered for me. I'm just not sure why this was kind of treated as such a big deal when all it is essentially unifying two things which already existed within the Sony ecosystem. When it was pitched as Sony making big moves, going head-to-head with Xbox Game Pass, I think what you've ended up with is something pretty generic that you actually largely offered already. And it seems to greatly fall short of the sort of vision for Sony, which they've spoken about before. But who knows, maybe this is just the launching off point. Maybe it'll be expanded into the future, or maybe it'll just stay as it is because they're happy with the numbers they've already got. I don't know, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Like the video if you like the video, subscribe, more videos like this in the future, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.